added like a CCTV, and there's 6 cameras. I can keep adding more cameras. It doesn't change the frame rate. The frame rate is a little slow while recording video, but it stays at 60 frames per second. When I'm not recording video. So my other level, I got like a giant stadium, so that's what I get that for. But it works, and it was really bad performance to start. What I ended up doing was I only captured 10 frames per second on those big screens, and the cameras only record if there's something following them. So if I go here, stop. I've got classes for my camera and my screen. If you look at the cameras, when a camera follows it, I add that it's being followed. And then I don't capture every frame. I turn that off, and I set it to only capture on tick, and then I set the rate that I want tick to run at. So that's how I set to 0.1. So that should slow down the frame rate. So if I have a screen capture component and I'm not set to capture every frame and I have followers, then I record. And then I rotate towards the closest player when I grab a camera. And begin play. Let's see what I do here. Why don't we start from the top? A little bit of a mess. I haven't organized the functions. So can tick true, create the scene capture component, and then in begin play, we set the render target, which you can either usually do a render target to disk. This one does it in memory with this Kismet piece. And I set the width. I'm doing a 16 by 9. That's what I set everything to, so it should look decent. Then over here, for my screen capture, set the texture target to that render target object. Then I have a material instance, and I did the same dynamic material thing we did in class. So based off of my material instance, that can put the texture on the screen. That's how that works. There's not too much there. And I set the player to follow here on begin play to just be the player that I am. And then I rotate towards the player. But then I have a timer that runs, and those are all settings. Go to definition. So here's my timer based on my tracking time, and when that finishes, we use this formula that GitHub gave me to get the nearest player. I thought about using like a pawn sensing component and doing things to only use a camera if there's players in sight, but for now this is gonna do. So get the closest player to the camera and follow them. And then we're switching cameras every 5 seconds, and we're switching the players that follow every 3 seconds. So it should give it that MTV generation flipping all over the place thing. So then once we got our player, rotate it and then reset the timer again. Then on the screen, let's see, we just add a static mesh, set the root component to the mesh. If I have a mesh and I have a camera, this is on set screen to camera. Let's go with begin play. So if you use random cameras, then we're going to go and just grab different cameras. That's true by default, but I thought maybe you just want a camera to use one TV somewhere in a game. So that way I don't need to say use random cameras. I can specify this TV uses that camera. And then I do the same thing with the timer, except it's on a different time. And then basically what I do is I just get a random camera out of the world. And then I set the screen to camera, which sets my material to the material instance from that camera. And I set the last followed camera so that I can remove it when I set the camera before. So that's that.